Swayman, dude, $64 million. It's a lot of money. Just sign the deal. It's basically all we've got left.
You know it's not about the money.
I know. It's about the arbitration hearing.
Yeah, you bet it's about the arbitration hearing.
Dude, you took us to arbitration. Do you remember that?
Oh, who cares? Do you remember what you said?
No, honestly, not really.
Well, I do. I remember everything you said. In fact, I wrote it down. I wrote it all down. You know what? I'll tell you what you said. You said an incredibly handsome goaltender is bitten by a radioactive walrus named Duncan and becomes the rubber blubber, the greatest goaltender to ever live. I don't think this is what you said.
Yeah, I don't think that's what I said.
Can I get 90 million?
No, I think Mr. Blubber should take 64. Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team. That is not a dub. This preseason has been just an atrocity of large stretches of hockey where the offense is non-existent. It's brutal. This game flat out sucked to watch. This was not an entertaining hockey game from a Bruins fan standpoint at all. I mean, through the first two periods, they had 8 shots. And again, I'm going to say there's not a ton to talk about with this game because, again, we're not doing the full breakdown note by note. We're going to talk about the players because we're right around the corner from the regular season. But, man, I know it's preseason. I want to put an asterisk on every single thing I say. Like, I know it's preseason. This sucked. This was bad. This was bad. Couple notes real quick. First of all, Bergeron was in the building, and that was fantastic. You love to see the guy. He's a great dude. He still looks great. Still looks like he could play. God, please come back. But he's retired. He's enjoyed his retirement. Always going to be a huge Bergeron fan. He's my favorite NHL player. I doubt anyone will ever take that mantle. Something about Bergeron. Lysell was recalled, so that's great. They're giving him what was likely one last look. Not super sure. Patra is day-to-day. Marchand is recovering from an illness. I feel like that opened up room for Lysell to come back up and get another look. He got to work with an actual NHL player in Coyle. Tufte cratered that line. But let's be honest, Lysell didn't do that much either, and Coyle didn't look great. We'll talk about that. Again, there's guys who are locked, and a game like this doesn't affect them. It just doesn't. Your top line of Zacha, Lindholm, Elias Lindholm, and Pasternak, it's not going anywhere. It looked awful, but it's not going anywhere. Other notes, real quick. I have a bachelor party on Saturday. I will not be watching the game. I am afraid for my own safety at this point about this party. But it'll be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But so basically the next time you're going to see me is when the season begins, which is very exciting because we are right there. We're right there. And I mentioned that they were honoring Patrice Bergeron during this game. It's just, again, really great to see the guy. Really great to see the guy. The lineup for this game, as we get closer and closer, this is much more full lineup. We have Zacha, Lindholm, Pasta, Tufte, Coyle, Lysell, Frederick, Johnson, Brazeau, which is, by the way, that third line is about as close to the real thing as we've seen so far. We'll see how that works out. Vale, Brown, Jones, Lindholm, McAvoy, Lohrei, Carlo, Zadorov, Wotherspoon, Korpisalo, and then Bussy was backing up. Korpisalo would get the full game. Let's talk about a couple of these players. First of all, the top line, which I just mentioned, Zacha, Lindholm, Pasternak, wasn't good. They did move the puck well. They had some open chances. They created some. One and done for virtually every chance. I mean, you can't... We had, 3 shots in the first period? It's really bad. 2 of them came from Patrick Brown, by the way. So, first line, really, really not good, in my opinion. They started to kind of open up more towards the end of the game, but too little too late at that point. I am not worried because Pasternak gets his. He always does. I'm not super worried about Zach on the wing. I trust that for him on the top line. He's not a superstar left winger, like a true top line guy, but he belongs in the top 6 there. And then Lindholm, who looked particularly behind on everything. Likely that just comes from him thinking, right? He's just thinking. He has to spend more time trying to figure out what he's doing because he's getting used to his line mates. The chemistry isn't there yet. There are 1,000 reasons to just go, not a big deal. But it looked really bad. It looked really bad on the power play. It looked really bad everywhere. So it's kind of just hard to ignore. It's like, it'll be fine. Not great. I have a ton of faith, though, that it's going to get worked out. It's just a really, really bad showing from that line. This was probably Tufty's worst game. I'm kind of tossing him aside at this point. It seems very, very unlikely that he makes a push to make this team. The same goes for Vale, or however you're supposed to say his name. He had a good camp and everything. It's just really hard to see him force his way into the lineup. Coyle, half speed for most of the game. His forechecking presence wasn't there. And that's actually a theme for the whole top 6, right? Which there is a projection where potentially we had 5 of our top 6 guys playing in this game. If Lysell was going to be included and Marchand would be in for Tufty, 5 of the 6 were in this game. And this is a theme for all 6 of them. Below the net in the offensive zone was so bad. The recovery of pucks, the forechecking presence, just the playmaking through that zone. You have to be able to utilize that space. Neither of these lines are able to do it virtually at all. The third line, Frederick, Johnson, and Brazeau, I thought Brazeau stayed consistent and has very much earned a spot in this lineup. I've talked multiple times about him potentially getting pushed out. He'd be my first candidate for dropping down, at least dropping down to the 4th line. But he's looked damn good. He just keeps doing his thing. He forechecks well. He creates havoc in the defensive zone, and he's a really good net front presence. I like Brazeau. I like him a lot. I thought Trent Frederick did a ton in this game, a bunch of little stuff that you really liked. Again, he lacks that little bit of, I don't even know how to explain it. His ability to truly open up space isn't there. It just feels like he's so close to it all the time, but he wins board battles. He uses that space behind the net in the offensive zone really well. There's a lot to really like about him. Johnson didn't feel like he was keeping up with the other 2 in my mind. But again, the same excuses you could give to Lindholm, you could give to Johnson here, Elias Lindholm that being, because he's getting used to his line mates. That third line, in my opinion, was the best offensive line that we had. And if your best offensive line is going to be Trent Frederick, Johnson, and Brazeau, you're probably not winning that hockey game. And then Vale, I already mentioned. Brown and Jones. Brown has had a good camp. I really dislike Brown as a Boston Bruin. I really, not as a human being, just as I don't think he belongs on the team. I think once again he's going to be a 13th, 14th forward. I don't think he's locked himself into place. Max Jones, who played right wing on the 4th line today, I thought was remarkably unimpressive. I really expected more commotion during his shifts. I just didn't see a lot of that. I don't think his forecheck was on time consistently. I don't like his defensive presence right now. Same excuses. He's still getting used to his line mates. I mean, obviously, all those guys are just thrown in at this point. But I really expected Jones to have a better camp than what we've seen so far. And I just haven't seen it with him. I'm not out on Max Jones. I still think he's likely to get a bottom 6 slot just based on, his past history in the league. But I kind of expected to see a little bit more. That could go across the whole team right now, though. It really can. Let's talk about Lysell for a second, because we just went through the top 6 and we kind of glossed over him a little bit. Has he done enough? Now, after his 3rd game of the preseason, I was like, he deserves another look. And then he gets sent down. And then he comes back up and he gets to work with an NHL player. There were a lot of little things that you still liked. His speed, his back check. He really does create a lot of discomfort for opponents through the neutral zone. I really like that about him. Offensively, he didn't have it tonight, but he couldn't create any space. No one could. They were completely smothered. I don't think this was the showing he needed. And while the locks for the roster look at this game and shrug their shoulders and go, okay, whatever, he couldn't really have afforded this game super well. So unless Monty really enjoyed the little stuff that he did, I don't know if he's really done enough to get that last look in Saturday's game and potentially make the team in day one of camp, say day one of regular season. It's also worth noting that if Patra's healthy by the beginning of the season and Marchand's up to speed, then it does look like Patra is a very likely candidate for that second right wing slot. There is also the possibility of Geeky being there. There's still competition, and what you were really hoping for is by the end of camp, Lysell was so clearly the best option for it. That we can very, very certainly say is up for debate. Like we cannot firmly state that a player is the best option in that slot, which puts Lysell way back. Because if you are going to go with somebody, and based on our history, it would be the vet or the guy that you just trust a little more because of his history. We'll see what happens. We'll wait for the Johnson announcement if he gets signed. I think that's going to have to wait on Swayman as well, but who knows at this point. We're not really going to talk about Swayman too much in this video because we have exhausted that subject. But it's hard to see that Lysell has done enough to truly separate and force his way into the top six. Well, I don't know if he gets another look on Saturday. I think if everyone else is healthy, we have close to a full roster for that one, and they're likely going to put Patra or Geeky there. And if they plan on having Johnson in the lineup, then something else is going to have to give. Someone's going to have to get moved down because Geeky will be in the top 9. And obviously, with Tufty being replaced by Marchand when the Marchand's healthy, and then potentially Lysell being replaced with Patra or Geeky, who gets bumped from the third line, especially if they want to keep Johnson around. There's a lot up for debate right now. I don't like the idea of Brazeau getting punched down because I think that him and Frederick work well together. As bad as the offense was, I actually really enjoyed what the defense brought. Obviously, they allowed 4 goals, and the 2-on-1s killed us, but not a ton you can put that on the defense, really, because they're going to be tasked with joining the offensive rush. And multiple 2-on-1s were created, one of them on the power play, of course, because that's what we do. The power play looked so unbelievably bad. Bruins hockey is back. But the defense blocked a ton of shots. They are in the lanes. They are very, very physical along the boards. There's a lot to really like there. When they break, though, when something goes wrong and a coverage is missed or something along those lines, they break. It is the highest of high danger chances that comes out of that. Brutally high danger chances. I think that's going to be solved by a certain amount of communication that reaches the next level as we get into the season. They get more comfortable with each other. I really like what this defense is bringing right now. Zadorov is still a bit of a question mark for me for how much I trust him. Wotherspoon did not look good for large stretches of this one, but the rest of them look like they're pretty well ready. They just need to iron out some details. That's very much a positive from this game, even though they allowed 4 goals. To that point, Korpisalo is to blame for one of them. I didn't like the way that Byfield's third went in. A short side tap over a poked, like an outreach stick by Korpisalo. Yes, Byfield was alone skating through the slot. It just felt like that should have been sealed up. Didn't love that one from him. The rest of them, yes, you could look at the box score and go, Korpisalo looked like crap. He didn't. He made some huge saves. The amount of 2-on-1s, the cross slot passes that led to one-timers on the other end, he saved more than he allowed. That's an awful shot to try to save. It sucks. It's a wide open net for the other team. You're flailing across. His movement, his control, his calmness. I think Korpisalo looked really good. This was one of those games where you walk away and you're like, that one's not on the goalie. Yeah, his stats suck for it, but it's really hard to point at him and be like, this one's on you. That 4th goal, I didn't like it. He wants that one back. That does happen. He's not an elite netminder, but it just doesn't look like so far through the preseason that we're getting this guy who had an 890, you know? He looks like a real NHL goaltender, which is exactly what we needed. We feel good about that. I feel especially good that if Swayman comes back and he's to form, that we have a solid backup to him. Positives. The box score is unfair to Korpisalo in this one. I saw a lot of people commenting on his game. I don't think it's fair. Do not think it's fair. Got to actually watch what went in and what didn't. He made some huge, huge saves. Other than that, the biggest thing is just the power play, right? Just looked awful. Gave up, actually, every power play we had, the best scoring chance of them, which was only 2, I believe. The best scoring chance of any power play we had was by the Kings. One of them went in the back of the net. Still a lot of learning going on. Still a lot of communication. I get that. Asterisk on everything. It's the preseason. But this showing sucked across the board. The power play was awful. The penalty kill looked pretty decent. They did score on the power play. The Kings scored on the power play. But still, I liked the way the penalty kill looked for the most part. Could not create anything offensively. Couldn't create anything through the neutral zone. And the Kings are a good defensive team, but this was an awful showing. And I'm just really, really leaning into it's preseason. People don't care that much. It's fine. Doesn't speak super well of the coaching staff, if that is the feeling, where everyone's like, bah, it's fine. I don't love that, but I'm also not going to lose any sleep about it. Saturday, I'd hope for a decent showing, just everyone trying to ramp up to speed. Again, I won't be there. I won't be able to watch. But I just want this team to feel good going into the regular season. Not feel like they're still trying to piece it together. It's only a few practices left. And they're professional athletes. They don't get a ton of practice time. They just don't. Obviously the off season, but in camp with the other guys, it's a few weeks, then off you go. Hopefully a bunch gets ironed out, and this was just a blip on the radar of preseason play and 50% speed. I am really curious to see what the roster will be Saturday, because I just don't know where the coach's head is at for what the lineups he wants for game 1 are. I know what the first line is. That is the only line and the only pairing that I am absolutely certain of. I mean, even the defensive pairings. Does Zadorov start with McAvoy and Lindholm start with Carlo? I think they do, but I'm not really sure. They might start Zadorov on the third pair, which would be insane in a financial sense, because Sweeney's like, I just spent $1 billion on this guy. Why is he on our third pair? There's a different conversation there that we're not going to have again. I think it goes Zadorov, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and then Lohrei and Peak. I just don't know. I don't know. So it'll definitely be interesting. We know the top line. We know the top goaltender for game 1. From there, still a ton to figure out. If you want to, chuck in some projected lines. I've been enjoying those from previous videos. Other than that, as per the usual, go Bees. Go Bees! Of course, we have to give a huge thank you to everyone who's supporting this channel, especially the high-quality inspectors, our top-line tier members, Chris and Erica, Jeff with a G, Tommy Braga, The Bugman, Roland22, GD Viperworks, Len Cruz, Moonlighter TV, Brock Nope, Han Slomo, Coach D, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Aaron Adams, Brett Arney, Pincent, and Nick Citrullo. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. You're all studs and studettes. And of course, a huge thank you to the Stallions, our all-star tier members, Joel, Doots42, Heil E. Coyote, Darren Woodbury, Abraxion, John Kirk, Michael DiPaolo, Wolf Warrior, Vinny, Adrian Winter, Tupton D. Tashi, Jacob Pratt, Bruins Smash, DeKingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, and Jeremy. You are all absolute legends. I appreciate you eternally. And as usual, go Bees!